Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
With Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about?
Yeah.
Well, the professional wrestling.
Do I have your attention now?
Done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
This past Saturday, I think that the ACT guys called it best. The hangover week from last weekend in wrestling is still being felt by a lot of fans out there. Hello, I'm Mike McGuire. Welcome to the show, where it is about celebrating wrestling. McGuire on Wrestling each and every week for free for you online and on the radio. Appreciate you being here. If you want to support the show, you can do so at CelebrateWrestling.com. That's it for shilling this week, because we got a lot to talk about. We're going to take you back to All In from a fan's perspective. One of our regular listeners and contributors, Devin Axtman, is going to join us from Texas. He was at the big show. We'll get his thoughts from the live event. Also, Dave Meltzer is here to go through some of the week's events with us, and Joe Aguinaldo going to join me for a discussion about Goldberg. Goldberg's farewell. If you listen to the Monday edition of the show that dropped this past week, you'll hear some great glowing thoughts from me and other people who all thought that Goldberg looked great and had a great send-off. It was a shame they cut off his speech, but they got it all online. And then there's people who think that Goldberg was denied. And those people are named Bill Goldberg. Got a bit to say about that coming up as well. If you want to be a part of the show, I invite you to the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. If you're not a huge Facebook user, you can also find me on Instagram, Twitter. I don't use that often, to be honest with you, and Blue Sky's out there as well at McGuire Show. You can also find the Celebrate Wrestling Instagram account. Highly suggest you follow that. But if you join the Facebook page, you are in the conversation with all of us, and you can be a part, offering feedback and a bunch more. That said, let's get down to things, starting with, as we always do, a look at some of the biggest stories in the last 5 days. Here is the 5 count.
You want to hear the breaking news?
Well, hot on the heels of AEW's All In Texas, this week they announced that they are returning to Wembley Stadium for 2026. Now, they are going to be heading back to England for Forbidden Door coming up in the near future, but it looks like Wembley will once again be the home for AEW's biggest show of the year. Speaking of AEW shows, tickets were also announced to be going on sale this week for their upcoming 7-week residency at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, also known as the ECW Arena. New Japan Pro Wrestling's annual G1 tournament kicked off on Saturday, continues through the weekend, and really all the way through to next month. It starts now and goes on till August 17th with the finals happening in Koto, Tokyo. Now, there's tons of great performers involved in blocks A and B. Classic names like 3-time winner Hiroshi Tanahashi, Sonata making his 10th appearance, Great-O-Khan, Ren Narita, Gabe Kidd, El Phantasmo, Shingo Takagi, Zack Sabre Jr., Konosuke Takeshita, and many more filling out the cards. This is known as one of the most grueling tournaments in the wrestling world. We'll give you more updates on it as the tournament continues through the next few weeks. Well, best wishes going out to WCW legend Marcus Bagwell, also known as Buff Bagwell. This week it was revealed that Marcus underwent amputation of his right leg above the knee. Now, this had to do with complications stemming from a vehicle accident that happened years ago. He's been dealing with pain and trauma ever since, so the decision was made. Former WWE star Maven Huffman followed Buff along the journey through amputation, and at the end of the video presentation, Buff had this to say about his future.
I want to get back in the ring, hit the ropes, have a match. It'll show that I've came out of the darkness with this thing, and I've turned it around all the way to being back in the ring as Buff Bagwell. You don't have to give up with something like this. This is something that I am taking by the horns, man, and I'm going to show the world that you can have just as good a life with or without a leg.
John Cena, check the fine print. It's not just a match for the title at SummerSlam. It's a street fight!
Well, let the celebrities and the stipulations fly, as WWE already has 8 matches lined up for their first ever 2-night SummerSlam, coming our way from East Rutherford, New Jersey in MetLife Stadium. John Cena and Cody Rhodes, as you heard, will be fighting in a street fight for the undisputed championship. On the women's side, Tiffany Stratton defends her title against Jade Cargill. Randy Orton and Jelly Roll will team up against Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul in a special tag team match. The World Heavyweight Championship sees CM Punk facing Gunther. Triple Threat will be determining the Women's World Championship between Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and current champion Naomi. The Intercontinental Championship for the ladies also up for grabs as Lyra Valkyria will take on champion Becky Lynch. The Judgment Days, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez will take on Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss for the women's tag belts. And Solo Sikoa defends his new U.S. Championship against Jacob Fatu in a steel cage. Pretty much all these matches were lined up since this past Saturday night's main event and a very busy Raw and SmackDown TV this week. And as this week's show is being produced, we are headed into TNA's Slammiversary, which has a full card, a three-way title match for the World Championship as Trick Williams defends against Joe Hendry and Mike Santana. There's a winner-take-all match between NXT's JC Jane and TNA's Masha Slamovich for the respective NXT and TNA Knockouts Championships. A four-way tag ladder match for the tag titles as the Nemeths take on the Hardys, the Rascals, and First Class. Mustafa Ali faces Cedric Alexander. The X Division title sees Moose defending against Leon Slater. The World Tag titles up for grabs between the Elegance brand and the Inspiration on the women's side. And in singles action, Tessa Blanchard faces Indy Hartwell. Of course, this is all not to be outdone by an 8-man tag team match, Dark State versus The System and Matt Cardona, and the return of AJ Styles to TNA. AJ, of course, is still under contract to WWE, so we'll see what happens shaking down out of the appearance.
Get ready to fly.
You're listening to McGuire on Wrestling online and on the radio through the Celebrate Wrestling Podcast Network and whatever radio station you're on right now. If you want to hear it on your radio station, give them a call or let me know at CelebrateWrestling.com and we'll get in touch with them. Coming up next, we're going to talk to the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer, plus one of you was at AEW All In. We're going to get a fan's perspective from that show last weekend, and we're going to talk about Goldberg. Thanks for being here.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Legends and Champions is your weekly fix to go old school, looking at the classic world of professional wrestling. From Hulk Hogan to the Hitman Bret Hart to the Icon Sting to the total package Lex Luger. We have it all each and every week on Legends and Champions, part of the Celebrate Wrestling Network. And it's available on a Wednesday with me, Andy Evans. See you there.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Devin Axman is here. Devin, Celebrate Wrestling faithful, and thank you so much for making the time for us today, man. Want to get your perspective from a fan in the stands point of view for AEW's All In last week. It's a week later now. Still feeling the buzz?
Yeah. I mean, it was a great show. It was long. It was very long. But I think it was still a great show, and I'm really glad I went.
You were there for the 0 hour too, right?
Yeah, I caught everything. I decided I paid my money. I'm going to catch everything.
7 hours plus whatever happened after the show went off the air. I mean, that's literally a work day, pretty much, for most folks. You know, you talked about getting your money's worth. You feel like you got your value?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, the biggest, they kind of build it as a triple main event or whatever, and I think all of those delivered. I love the women's match. That was my favorite match of the night, actually. Tony and Mercedes. Mercedes is just a bumping machine. I really liked Kenny and Okada. That was cool because I watched all those matches in New Japan, and then the crowd was nuclear hot for that one, especially the bell pop. That was cool. I love a good bell pop, and I thought it was cool because they didn't wrestle like their other matches, but it was still, if you watch the other matches, you could appreciate it because it was like they knew each other.
Yeah.
So they had each other scouted. And then the main event was just chaotic and there was a lot, but I thought everything, kind of made sense.
Well, and that's just it. Like Meltzer and I said last week, I feel that show slayed a lot of dragons. It hit a reset button for a lot of storylines and people that are now going to have new, fresh angles moving forward here. As for each match being different, and I love that you talked about the Omega Okada match because I felt the same way. It was one of those things where, it wasn't how they used to be, but these guys are both older, they're both wiser, and frankly, they're both a little, slower, but that's not to be saying that they're bad. I thought, if anything, they brought everything they could at a maximum level in that match. And having Okada go over, I honestly thought that was the best Okada has looked since his AEW arrival.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think he definitely brought it. He can still bring it with those big matches. I don't think we're going to get Okada on the G1 tours in Japan where every night is like a banger. I think he picks his spots. I still think he definitely brought it. I think the entrances were big. I thought they also did a really good job of that, of the entrances, because I think with a big show like that, I think that's something WWE does a really good job of making the show feel big. And I think AEW did a great job there too. But I think AEW is at its best when they do things as like an alternative or differently. And you saw a lot of things there that you might not see in other companies, like the main event and things like that.
Yeah. It had, for lack of a better comparison, it had like a WrestleMania vibe to it, which I thought was something that WWE has obviously taken the ownership on, but I thought that was something AEW has really kind of lacked until now. Like, they've had their big shows, obviously. The first All In that AEW did, was big, sure, but even then, like with the production, like not everything was quite in sync. This is the first one that felt in sync. As a fan that was in the building, first of all, have you ever been to a WrestleMania or a WWE stadium show?
Yeah, I've been to both of the WrestleManias in Dallas, actually.
Perfect. So is that a fair comparison to say that it felt like a WrestleMania vibe there?
It definitely did, and I feel like the fans were a little bit different than other AEW shows I've been to. There were more, I don't know, I don't love the term casual fans, but there were more
How about new fans?
Because the new fans,
a show like that's going to draw some people that have never been to an AEW show in their life.
Yeah, there was a good amount of WWE, like people wearing WWE shirts, like Heat shirts, Cena shirts, things like that, where I haven't seen that at other AEW shows I've been to. So, it's interesting. You said, like, one thing with the WrestleMania comparison, I didn't love the pacing of the show. It seemed really drawn out, and I'm not a huge fan of let's have a huge video package to explain everything. I mean, maybe that's just my point of view. Like, I watch the show every week. I'm going to get things. You can explain things on commentary, but all in all, they made it seem like a really big show.
Outside of those three main events, what would you say was the standout match or moment of that show for you?
Definitely the tag match, for sure, with the Young Bucks and Swerve and Ospreay, for sure. Just the sequences in that match were incredible. Some of those sequences. It was something where I was like, not many people can do what they're doing right now.
Well, Devin, we always like to end these conversations about your live pay-per-view experience or live show experience, and I know you've already kind of said yes, but if you don't mind me asking specifically, do you mind disclosing how much you paid for your ticket?
The wife got it for me for Christmas, and her thing was like, can I get you this present if I don't have to go?
That's a good wrestling fan wife right there.
But I think she paid around $130.
Really? That's all?
It wasn't too bad. I use a wheelchair, so I was in the wheelchair seats. But even on the floor, I saw they were like $300. So those were cheaper than other shows I've seen. But yeah, they kept the tickets pretty reasonable, which I think was a good idea too, because they put a lot of people in there. But I definitely got my money's worth for sure. Or my wife did, I guess.
You know what, man? I really appreciate you sharing your photos. I appreciate you sharing your experience of the time at All In. Always really appreciate your feedback on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page as well. You're one of the best out there. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Dave, let me take you back to some of Goldberg's greatest moments, defeating Jonathan Coachman, Rosie, Stevie Richards. Oh, some of the classics. Some of the guys he elevated and put over. It's a shame we didn't get to commemorate that more this past week. Do you agree or disagree with Goldberg's sentiments on his, quote, send-off?
I would say that as far as being unhappy about the way the production came out, I don't see how he could be happy. They cut off his. It was timed all wrong. They cut off his. They gave him his farewell was 28 seconds. The match was good. As far as, like the build and everything like that, I just watched last night with the UFC with Dustin Poirier, who wasn't as big a star as Goldberg, and UFC did a much better job. So I saw AEW with Sting. They did a much better job. So, I could see where he's coming from. As far as I was kind of thought like it was really Mickey Mouse, how that, the show ended on Saturday night. It's a live show. They had to be out at 10. That's how it had to be. That's not their fault. I don't know. And this is the key thing of all this is that, did they have an option to, tell people at the end, we're out of time here, go to, Peacock in the United States and leave it going? Because Peacock also cut out at the same time. And I don't know the answer to that one. Mm-hmm. Did they ask NBC at all? I have no idea. On NBC itself, they had to get out at 10. There's, they can't go 15 minutes longer, and that was established.
And that's fine. That's fine. So outside of the timing, though, of that, because I'm gonna come back and say immediately that with WWE's social media and YouTube reach alone, and they uploaded the entire farewell immediately after it happened. They couldn't have gotten it up on the internet any faster than they did, short of doing a live stream, okay? To complain about the 30-second thing, I'll give him that, okay? The show was timed out wrong. There's stories, and we'll get into this as how it may have happened or not happened. But to say that the build, to say that the level of send-off wasn't what it should have been, to compare himself to The Undertaker and John Cena, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it, man.
I think it's very different. Here's the situation. Whatever build they gave and the reason they did it on that night was strictly, and the reason that they did it, period. They were going to do a retirement, but the reason it was that night was, and on Shannon's main event and not on a pay-per-view, was they needed something real big to go against AEW. That was why he was there. So it was he can look at it and go like, I wanted, it would have been better on pay-per-view without the time restriction. And they put it there because they're in a wrestling war, and they used Bill Goldberg's name to try to be the big attraction on Saturday in a wrestling war. That's why they were, that's why they did it with Bill. It's not like they did Bill a favor. They used Bill in the manner that they wanted to win a wrestling war or a wrestling battle and hurt the other company on Saturday. That was the whole goal. So perhaps he thought maybe I shouldn't have been a pawn in that. Maybe they should have just put it on a pay-per-view and would have been, handled a lot better. So, his thing was it should have been on a pay-per-view, and it's like, well, it should or it shouldn't. But the thing is what they needed was Bill Goldberg because they had nothing else. And it didn't turn out to be as successful as they expected it to be. But that was the deal.
In 2025, with short attention spans, with the ability to inundate people with marketing everywhere you go, besides your weekly TV, you can hit the internet, you can hit, social media, you can do all these things now to get people's attention to your show. In fact, Tony Khan has built entire pay-per-view cards for big shows in 3 weeks, and we've defended that to a degree, talking about how he's got to get it in where he gets it in. Did this need to be promoted since January?
It depends on what they were looking for. Could it have been mentioned earlier? I can't say that. They put themselves in the position because they go from cycle to cycle, from show to show, and they don't want to get ahead of themselves. So based on when the last big show was and when this big show was, that was the number of weeks they had. That's how they promote now.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, could they have done it differently? Could they have done it on a show where they had more time to build it? Yeah, that wasn't their thing. They needed something on July the 12th, and they had a pay-per-view just a couple of weeks earlier. So that's all they had.
Goldberg himself said that in preparing for this match, he had been injured a few times as well.
Yep. So he didn't pull out.
So, and that's fair too. But the thing is that And I think you and I are just going to be on different sides of this thing, and that's fine. That's what I love about talking to you, is because we'll both stick to our guns in some things here.
Well, it's not guns. I'm just saying.
Well, I know, but I'm
just saying, like, this is the reality of what it was.
And I get it, and I'm going to come in from the fan perspective.
Put this way. And like I said, like, they had to get out at 10. Yep. I recognize that. I recognize they had to get out at 10. Could they have done other things? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I mean, as far as like from their standpoint, I understand. I completely understand WWE's standpoint. They had something that they wanted. They did it. Bill Goldberg was the key to it. Bill Goldberg was the key attraction on the show. Timing didn't work out. That's fine. Bill, Bill wasn't happy. The timing didn't work out. At the end of the day, and in due time, he'll probably be happy that. And he even said that. Most guys don't get that. Of course, most guys aren't in a position to where they're going to be, in the minds of WWE, a difference maker in that spot. That's why. So he got it not because he was a great wrestler. He got it because they thought that it was a marketable thing to do. Like I said, AEW, did the thing with Sting, and it was a phenomenal success. And this, wasn't as good or as successful.
And on the Sting argument, and it's not an argument, but you know what I'm saying, to the Sting point, though, I will say this as well. Sting was around. Sting was relevant. Sting was doing other things. Sting had something to miss. There were people in that building, I guarantee, that no matter who brought them or whatever, probably had no idea who Goldberg was that night, because it's been 25 years.
In that building,
25 years.
He got an enormous pop. If he'd gotten no response, I would say.
Of course he did.
He got an enormous pop, much bigger than anybody else. So they knew who he was. It was Atlanta. The show was built around it. He was the ticket seller. They ran a show the next day that they had trouble selling tickets to. So, and on the same weekend. So there you go, for a pay-per-view. So, Bill was the attraction for the weekend, and that's why they put him in that spot.
And I'm not saying that he wasn't an attraction, but I'm still saying that you can't tell me that a 10-year-old Jey Uso fan is going to be as passionate about Bill Goldberg's send-off as a fan that watched it in the 90s was.
Maybe not. But I think the audience that was there was probably not, who got the biggest reaction on that show? It was him. So, that was the deal. The people who came to that show. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who didn't have any emotional attachment to Bill, but a lot of people did. I mean, the crowd reaction says it. And the other one, too, is when he was out there giving that speech at the end, if they didn't care, they'd have gone home and not listened to the speech. I mean, I've seen many, 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 many wrestling shows where the main event ends and the guy comes out there and gives a speech, and that crowd's rushing out of the building because they're trying to beat traffic, and that didn't happen. So they were there for him.
So to put a cap on this, because I got a lot more about Goldberg coming up with Joe Aguinaldo, but I do want to say that I recognize the fact that, yes, he did some significant things. Yes, he was a draw, especially in Atlanta. Yes, he made some big business for WCW and everything else, but I just don't think that 3 days or 2 days after the event to complain and talk and even acknowledge that you're in a position that a lot of guys who were a lot more famous and a lot more successful than him didn't do or didn't get to have, as far as a big send-off.
There were probably guys that were, I suppose, famous. I mean, they never did a one for Austin. So, yeah, you could say that. They didn't do it for Austin. Dwayne's still doing stuff, so I don't think he wants to be retired. But, he was still pretty on the famous side. But, yeah, there'll be people who are pretty famous who, for luck or whatever, they don't do that for. But, again, it's like they needed a hook for a big show. This was not like, we love Bill Goldberg, and even though he never did anything for us, we're going to do this. This is like, we needed a hook for a show. And it sounded like a great hook. I thought it was. It wasn't as great as I thought it would be for, and that's the number, maybe.
Do you remember what the ratings were coming out of that?
Oh, yeah. They did 0.32, I believe, which was it was 0.325, actually. So it was the lowest they've ever done. Although one of the Saturday Night's main events, the second one did a little bit better, but not much better. And then the other ones did much better. Yeah. So it was low, maybe that's because of AEW. but yeah, no, it wasn't as big as the other ones, but they didn't also put the other ones head to head with an AEW show.
And we talked about the logic last week of running one against the other because it made no sense because you could, you've already invested in the AEW pay-per-view. If you spent your money, you can watch what happened on Saturday night's main event after. Like, there's no sense in running head to head. Now I think they've seen exactly that. So they're still going to do it. They're still going to do it.
We'll see what, they sacrificed the NXT show. I mean, that was the one that was really head to head. This one, I don't think when they put this show together, it was meant to be head to head because originally the AEW show was going to be at 8. And they started their show, the Saturday night's main event started at 8. But that's not, the Saturday night main event's going to start at the time it's going to start, but they were doing that to be head to head with AEW, and then AEW moved to the afternoon. Then they added the afternoon show, So, you could see the strategy, and Bill was part of the strategy. Bill was tried to be the big attraction for the weekend. And, the hope was that Bill's retirement was going to mean more than the AEW show. And to some people, I'm sure it did.
Yeah, but apparently to a lot of people it didn't. I even said so myself, and we'll talk about that later
to
on.
a lot of people it didn't. But that was their strategy for the week,
I'll put it this way, and I want to put the pin on this now because we got to move on, but I left Saturday night's main event. I talked to you on Monday saying, you know what? I felt good about Goldberg's retirement. Good for him. He left with looking at the lights, Then I heard that interview, and as a fan, which is all I've ever claimed to be, as a fan, I felt like, you know what, dude, we were all feeling great for you. It was kind of a slap in the face.
It was like he didn't say anything bad about the fans. He said he was talking about the execution of the thing. The execution of the thing was bad, and it's like, I don't necessarily blame WWE. It just was. Things happened. And he has the right to be mad that the execution was bad, saying, I don't think it would be that way for someone else. And if it was someone else in that situation, probably wouldn't be. If they were when Ric Flair was on Raw, and they did the same thing, they went long. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They didn't cut him off. When, if it's on a pay-per-view, they'll go long. They put it on a show that had a hard out. And, so that's probably what he was bitter about. That, they cut his thing off.
Hopefully he realizes that he's still got a lot more than a lot of guys and girls ever will in a wrestling career. I know he said that.
He outright said that. He said most people don't even get 28 seconds. And he's right. Most people don't. At the same time, most people aren't going to be a difference maker, to go against AEW's biggest pay-per-view of the year. It's like, that's the whole part of the story that like when people talk about Bill, it's like they had the confidence in Bill to go to make him the guy to kill in their attempt to, really hurt the pay-per-view numbers for AEW. That's why it was all there. As long as you figure that in, you have and understand that, it's like it tells you a different story. It's like, it's not like, they were so nice to Bill. It's like, no, they tried to come up with something really, really big to hurt their opposition. And they thought Bill's retirement was it. Now, they would have done a Bill retirement anyway at some point this year, but it would not have been it wouldn't have been on Saturday's main event, though.
No. Okay, moving forward, but still sticking a little bit with this because there is some speculation going on about it, Dave. I wanted to ask you, do we know anything more about what the plans would have been had Seth Rollins not gotten injured? Because a lot of people are believing that might have actually screwed up the entire finish, and that's what screwed up the timing as well for Goldberg.
As it turns out, the Seth thing was all planned. So, probably didn't make a difference at all. In theory, if it did, and they stopped the match early, that would have given them more time, not less. But, there were people who knew, and the show was, the insiders, they knew the timing and everything. So, almost everybody else didn't know. I think the people backstage, in theory, based on the people backstage, they'd have had more time, but in reality, they had no more time.
That's what I couldn't figure out is that how did they not have so much more time to fill? They had to jam in that last commercial break.
I think that the Bill match with Gunther went long is also part of it, which, is in extent, is that Bill's fault? Did they give them a cue, and did they not listen? And if that's the case, then some of this would be on Bill. If Bill went long in the match, or Gunther and Bill together went long, and like 2 or 3 minutes long, and then they didn't have time for the post-match thing, that's on them. But I don't know, did they get sent a message, go home and not listen? I didn't hear that.
So just back to the Rollins thing, Dave. Does this mean that the Rollins thing had no impact on this whatsoever, to your knowledge?
At the highest level, to the people who were really in charge, the Paul Levesque working in Gorilla, it could not have, no. To everyone else around that was backstage that didn't know, they probably would think so. But if they would think so, they would think it would be more time, not less.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, WrestlingObserver.com. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the Hangover week after. All in, Saturday night's main event, Great American Bash, Ring of Honor, blah, 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 all this stuff that went on. More with Dave coming up.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
The alternate commentary table, ACT, brought to you by the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Listen, it's Mitch, it's Dimitri. We got this little pod thing that we do every single week where we talk about the week in wrestling and the way in which we do it from the other side of the railing, right, Mitch?
I like that.
We're coming at it because we love it, we hate it. The alternate commentary table, ACT. Download it anywhere where you're getting your podcasts.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Back with the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer. We have already started lighting the match on the keg of dynamite. There will be some more Goldberg discussion coming up in a bit here, but I do want to talk about things that have happened since the crazy weekend of wrestling last weekend, Dave. Of course, we went ad nauseum about it on Monday for an early edition or I guess late edition of the show, depending on how you look at it. Nevertheless, things are starting to settle now. We're starting to see main events for SummerSlam shape up. We're starting to see AEW take fold with their new chapters. I mean, the Hangman page that we're getting now is quite different from the Hangman page we got even a couple of years ago. I will concede that, which I think has been needed, to be honest. I think that after all the Punk drama and everything else, they needed to stop worrying about what was going on outside and around them and start focusing on their TV product. And I think in the last year, they've done a great job of that. So Hangman Page as your champion, big show, big success at All In Texas. Some people are saying the venue they followed up with in Chicago afterwards, I don't remember the name of it, but it was
Aragon Ballroom.
Okay. It was a very ballroom feeling sort of atmosphere. A lot smaller, obviously, but at the same time, a hot crowd, a loud crowd. Is this where AEW needs to be moving forward now as far as an energy vibe goes?
Okay, so here's the thing. I watched the Dynamite in that ballroom, and I thought, really good. The people were really excited. Good show. I watched the Collision, and it was like, man, it felt like Ring of Honor. You know what I mean? It just, the Collision crowd wasn't that excited, and now I got, there's there are benefits and there are very negatives about running in the same building over and over again. And one of them is that, if you keep running, you're going to run into smaller crowds. Although the place was mostly full, but they weren't hot. The first night of the Wednesday, they were super hot. So it was like, it saves a lot of money running like this. That's why they do it. It's a bottom line thing, but yeah, I watched the Collision show and I thought it was a real flat show. And the Dynamite show and most of the AEW product of late I've really liked. So, it's and there's 3 more weeks there and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's hard to draw over and over and over again in the same city. It is a big city and it is a small building. It's got a neat look. But when you have a building like that with a neat look and no one's making noise, like on the Collision show, it's not as positive as on the Wednesday show where I thought was a, really good show.
On that note, tickets go on sale this week for their residency coming up at the 2300 or the old ECW Arena. And again, it's going to be a multi-week stay there. Do you think that's going to help or harm the TV production overall?
We'll have to see. I think the first show there will be a big, hot show. And then there's, 6 more shows. And we'll see. I mean, when they were in Arlington and they did it, they pretty much packed it, and I thought it was good almost every show when they did it. Chicago, we're at 1-1. Philadelphia, we'll see. Philadelphia is an interesting audience. I mean, I think like I said, I think it'll start out good. I think the Ring of Honor big show on August 29th will probably be good. But again, so many shows in the same market, it can hurt crowd reactions for sure.
We jump over to WWE now, and we're starting to set things up for SummerSlam. Of course, they got 2 nights to try and get as many people in the MetLife Stadium as possible. One of the big stories this week coming out of TV, obviously, is the involvement of Jelly Roll and Logan Paul with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. I mean, stunt celebrity spot, absolutely. I mentioned before how I'm in country radio. We play Jelly Roll. I did loosely mention his appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live because it's a network TV show and maybe some people are seeing it online. But overall, I mean, the perception of WWE is if you can get somebody remotely famous to any level, get them in there. And Jelly Roll is a big superstar in that world. Mm-hmm. How do you think this is going to cross over with the regular wrestling fan that you watch? Are they into it? Are they excited for it?
Probably so-so. The thing is for the match, Logan Paul's really good. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre are great. And I think the match will be fine. It'll be set up. He'll have to do a few things, and they'll practice them out like crazy. And I don't really have any worries about the match, honestly, because it's not like if there was a bunch of celebrities, you know what I mean, or something like that, or a singles match, I'd be worried. This one, I'm not worried at all because, man, Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre are great. So, I mean, as far as are there going to be people who are mad that he's on the show that are hardcore wrestling fans? Yes. This is just part of wrestling. It's been part of wrestling for years and years and years, having celebrities in it. So, especially with WWE, look, the company went national with Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T. To complain about it now is pretty hypocritical, I think. You know what I mean? This is what made them. And so, I mean, granted, he's not as big as they were, but they've had Snooki and a million other people and Maria Menounos in the ring, and life goes on. And sometimes they're Bad Bunny, sometimes they're really good. Look at Logan Paul. Logan Paul's really good. So he's trained to wrestle before. It's not like he had trained to be a wrestler at another point. So he's more like a Pat McAfee rather than someone who's, just coming in from the cold, or like AJ and, AJ, the Costco guy on the, the AEW show, who was on the show in a match. It was fine. Did he help them? I mean, he did some nice promo work at the end. Jelly Roll got him on Jimmy Kimmel. That's even bigger. So good for them.
Yeah, I think if we're comparing apples to oranges here, that would be the biggest comparison is the AJ Costco guy versus Jelly Roll as far as the popularity goes. But
Jelly Roll is a bigger celebrity to me than AJ.
So that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying is that they're two totally different categories here. Yeah. Let's go back in time. Late night TV coming into this whole thing. I have to ask, who do you think will have an overall more memorable performance? Jelly Roll at SummerSlam or Jay Leno back at Road Wild?
I think the Jelly Roll will be much better. I mean, Jay Leno will be far, far, far more memorable because he was a much bigger star at that point in time.
Right.
I mean, it won't get the publicity Jay Leno got, but I mean, I think in the ring, I think he'll be better. Yeah.
It was, and this goes back to what I was talking about with Goldberg. It was a different time, right? Like the way
that was a different time.
So different. Yep.
That was a different time. Yeah. Yeah. They were running their company out of business. And these guys aren't.
Oh, Dave, being cheeky. All right. CM Punk is now your guy to go against Gunther at SummerSlam here. I mean, this makes all the sense in the world. You got a big name like Punk. You got Gunther. Who comes out on top in this one?
Seth Rollins.
You think so? You think that's gonna be it?
I mean, that's the plan. I mean, could it change? Of course. We'll see what happens. But I mean, as far as, I think I know that was the plan. I don't know that they don't change the plan because, you could, and there's a lot of different factors involved. But, as far as, that, honestly, I think that I think the idea of CM Punk beating Gunther and then Rollins cashing in on him and beating him right away, I think it's kind of brilliant, because it it gives Punk the win, but he doesn't get to enjoy the win, and it heats up Punk and Seth, who have the never-ending feud. So if they do it that way, I like it.
And this past Friday on SmackDown, we had the contract signing. You know, that legal binding contract technique where you knock your opponent out, grab their hand, put the pen in it, and make them sign some semblance of a signature. That legally binds a contract in our world.
That is quite the thing to hold up in court, I'll tell you. But it's pro wrestling. There's many silly things that happen in pro wrestling.
You know what else that was, though? That was kind of a heel move, wasn't it?
Oh, no. The way he did it there, that baby faces do that all the time.
I know, but there's a smattering of boos for Cody coming out before he came out.
It's John Cena, and people don't want to boo John Cena, which is one of the reasons why I think the heel turn, while the actual turn itself at first was good, I don't think it's really it's just been weird, I would say, because the people cheer him so much. And Cody, Cody got booed at WrestleMania. They're in New York for SummerSlam. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cody get booed. I don't think anyone would be. And maybe he'll go heel and win it in a heel way and go heel from there. I mean, we already know Dwayne wants him as a heel, and Dwayne's a powerful guy. I like
Cody Rhodes. I've always liked Cody Rhodes ever since he went out on his own and did what he did. But I can't wait to see that turn happen again finally, because I'm there. I know that he's a merchandise machine and everything else, but I just think that they're going to boo him out of the building in MetLife. So
I think they will. I think in New York they will. Yeah. Too. Yeah,
all right. Dave, we are just about out of time for this week, so I want to let you definitely spread your wings a bit. I know the G1 has taken up probably a lot of your viewing time, as we're going to have a guest on who is also watching along with that, and he's going to give us his thoughts. He was actually at All In Live, so he's going to give us his perspective in a few minutes here. But with the G1 and everything else going on, what can people follow along in the Wrestling Observer?
Well, this is a really big issue, because this issue, we, obviously cover everything from last week and a lot of the business stuff in detail, like what happened, who did well, who didn't do well. Did a story on a guy named Eddie Amazing Kung Fu Hamill, who was a UK star. Very, very, very interesting story, and then, but yeah, coverage of all the shows. We got the full lineup for SummerSlam as of June 29th, and there have been changes to it since, but you can kind of see the framework of where they were going with everything. Talk a lot about Bill Goldberg, talk a lot about all of the decisions that were made as far as AEW went, the length of the show, everything like that. The gate, the pay-per-views, big pay-per-view number, merchandise.
Did they hit the 3 million?
Gate, yeah, they passed 3 million, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Gate, records that they set. They were company records, but still, but very impressive, very impressive overall. And then, WWE, all of their 3 big shows that they had over the weekend. And then, all the stuff, plus all the regular stuff all over the world, Prelude to G1, which started yesterday. So it's going to be a lot of good wrestling this year. Not as much interest as other years, but a lot of good wrestling.
Well, we'll catch up and get an update on the G1 with you next week as well. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Always appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You're listening to McGuire on Wrestling. Coming up next, we're talking about Goldberg. Hold on.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
CKXU-FM 88.3 in Lethbridge is Southern Alberta's true alternative radio station.
The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better.
Proudly carrying McGuire on Wrestling every week.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something different to listen to,
this is gonna be a slobber knocker!
Check out our NCRA award-winning lineup of programs or stream us anytime at ckxu.com.
To be able to go against the world heavyweight champion, to be able to go against Gunther, it was a honor and a privilege to be able to be given that opportunity, and I had to make the most of it. I'm not going to complain because not many people get that opportunity. I would have loved for them to announce it in January and have a build up to it and do something like that I thought was maybe worthy of my career. Let's just say I'm pissed off at the way I went out, because I put so much into it, and I don't feel as though the effort was reciprocated. It could have been a little classier prepared than it was. So, they wouldn't do that to Taker, right? I don't think. They wouldn't. They're not going to do that to Cena. Cena's going around the world doing his retirement thing. Mine was just the World Heavyweight Championship match. And to be honest with you, I'm going to catch hell for. I don't care. It was a World Heavyweight. Dude, I had World Heavyweight matches all the time. That doesn't do anything for me.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Joining me now, perhaps to agree with me completely or disagree or balance me out, one of the three. Joe Aguinaldo is here. How are you, my friend?
Yay! Oh, wait, wrong segment. Never mind.
That's fine. That's fine. Again, thanks to everybody that yay-booed everything last weekend. Again, you can read all that feedback on the Celebrate Wrestling page. We didn't get a chance to get to all of it on the show because there were too many shows.
Yes, I just finally finished getting caught up. So it's a lot of wrestling last weekend. Oh, my goodness.
Well, that's just it. I know the joke is wrestling fans don't have lives, but some of us do.
Yeah, some of us actually have jobs that we need to go to and for mortgage and stuff.
How do you get through all that? So I don't know how they expect, and maybe they don't expect it. Maybe they're just happy to get whatever sliver of the pie they get. But one big piece of that pie last weekend, Joe, was WWE's Saturday night's main event. Maybe not the entire show itself, but definitely the Bill Goldberg retirement match against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship in Atlanta, Georgia, Goldberg's established hometown. Right? Talked about how he played college ball there and, of course, played with the Falcons, had his big match with Hogan on Nitro that time. That city makes sense to mean a lot to Bill Goldberg. So I thought, hey, what a great moment. What a great match. He left looking at the lights. I know that other wrestlers and people that worked with him, Lance Storm, for example, put him over on the internet for saying, hey, way to go, looking at the lights. Really old school, great way to leave on a high note. And everybody was feeling kind of good about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then this interview with Ariel Helwani hits, and we've played clips from it. And again, all the credit in the world to Ariel Helwani, one of the most persistent and consistent interviewers. I will say that. He's had his own run-ins with talents and promoters and whatnot through the years, sometimes for how he approaches things. But I will say this, when it comes to asking the questions that fans would want to ask and really get the answers to, Helwani's one of the best. And he was saying on a segment, I want to say it was with the Busted Open people. I listened to a lot of shows this week because I wanted to make sure I wasn't parroting people as well. But he said that when Goldberg left out that little nugget of he wasn't really thrilled with how it all went down, he had to ask why. And that is when Pandora's box or Goldberg's mouth opened. And we found out everything that was terrible about this, what we thought was wonderful feel-good segment. So, Joe, did you get a chance to hear a lot of the comments from the Helwani interview?
Kind of paying attention to it. I've been on the periphery of it.
Yeah.
So,
like a lot of us are.
Yeah. And I'm kind of like you. I'm trying to maintain some balance around it. Right. And if he's disappointed, that is absolutely his opinion. He is very welcome to that. But I just overall, though, when I look at it, he got more of a send off than some people, like, say, for example, an Undertaker. I don't remember Undertaker getting a huge send off like this in a match, or Kane, some legendary wrestlers.
You remember Undertaker's send off? Do you remember where it was?
No.
At the Survivor Series in the Thunderdome.
Okay.
They had the hologram of Paul Bearer.
Right.
They had Kane and a few others come out, and it was in the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
That was the big hurrah that he got.
And we're talking about The Undertaker. We're not talking, look, due respect to Bill Goldberg, okay? Dude was hot for
hold on there. Just before I know where you're going to go with this, but just before you go there, all respect to Bill Goldberg, all respect to The Undertaker. I say a few notches of disrespect to Bill Goldberg because Undertaker was a name that he mentioned individually.
Yes.
Saying that Bill Goldberg did not get the same send-off as The Undertaker did. Taker didn't get that. And those were his words.
And this is where I'm going, okay? With due respect to Goldberg, who was hot for a minute, okay? Like, I can't deny his place where he was one of the hottest performers during one of the hottest periods of wrestling. But for him to say that, like put him in that level of Undertaker, and I think he also kind of said the same thing about Cena. It's like, really, dude? Like, no, you are not at that level. I'm sorry, but he is not.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So a couple weeks ago on this very show, I predicted 3 things. All In Texas would be the wrestling show for wrestling fans. Thing number 2, there'd be something for everybody that weekend. And the spectacle of Goldberg's last match would be what everybody would be talking about the Monday morning after. So I tossed out some things about Evolution, saying I thought they would steal the show as well and everything else that happened. I got almost everything right, except for Monday morning, people weren't talking about Goldberg. Not as much as I thought they would be, okay? The match was what it was. Dave Meltzer and we talked about it. The match was, quote, as good as it could have been for what it was, which, given Goldberg's run of matches in the last 20 years, is actually a pretty glowing statement.
It wasn't a horrible match. Let's just put it that way.
Which, again, is a pretty glowing statement given Goldberg's last 20 years.
Yeah.
Of spotty appearances and questionable matches. Okay, I want to go back to being in the Saddle Dome for the return of Bret Hart to come in, and he did his thing with Gunther. Goldberg says, oh, I only got 3 weeks notice on this thing. Dude, that show was last summer. I was there.
Right.
Like, it was crazy that's when Goldberg's name first got mentioned by Gunther. And then the rumors started swirling then. Then we got more jabs with the whole Goldberg-Gunther interaction. That was months and months ago. So then the question becomes, where does Goldberg get this 3 weeks idea from? Even though it may not have been openly promoted on TV every week, the whole world has been talking about Goldberg-Gunther and the possibility of it happening for over a year. Now, maybe Goldberg doesn't spend as much time on the internet hearing the hype, but according to him, he does. Because nobody was talking about it, brother.
And I think that's my issue with this whole thing. Like, look, he is very well within his rights to be disappointed. I'm not going to argue that, right? For whatever reason. Okay, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but he's well within his rights. But it's just and I can't remember if you said this before or when we started recording, but you used the word tone deaf, and that's what Goldberg is right now. It's very tone deaf. When I hear what he's saying, you're kind of like, dude, you got to send off on national TV. Think about all of the wrestlers out there, okay, who have gotten a send off on national TV. Can't think of too many, right?
Okay, so on that note, I'm going to correct myself.
Okay.
Tone deaf is not the term. Because tone deaf implies that you're not aware of the world around you.
Right.
Goldberg is very much aware of the world around him, but he's not aware of the world outside of that.
Then perhaps the word really should be, is it egocentric?
Egocentric, entitled,
yes,
socially unaware. I could go on a diatribe about this. I'm not gonna, because even though people are gonna think, oh, Mike, you're the Bret Hart fan, blah, blah, blah. This has nothing to do, respectfully, this has nothing to do with Bret Hart.
No.
People are saying Bret was right. I even texted Bret, said, yeah, a lot of Bret was right stuff coming out. I don't even think he thinks that. Because what's happening is, the only way that Bret was right is by the things that he has said, not about what happened between him and Goldberg, but about guys like Goldberg who never gave anything back to anybody. in the wrestling business. Now you can say, oh, well, he put guys over. Did he really?
I would argue that very much.
Name one guy that Goldberg established.
And this is my point, is that,
and elevated.
I can't think of one. Like, every Goldberg match that I've seen anyways, or that I've witnessed, has really been about putting himself over. And even the times that he lost, how many people do you know squashed Brock Lesnar?
Okay, so I'm actually literally looking up his match database on Cage Match, because if we go through some of his opponents, you can say, well, he put people over. I'm not saying he didn't put people over as far as wins and losses go.
No, but did he put them over where they looked great after the match? You know what I mean?
This is what I'm saying, because the guy even said in that Helwani interview, oh, it was a world title match. I get world title matches all the time. Dude.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
You're already saying how privileged you've been to just come in, show up, and get title matches.
See, and it's weird because that reminds me of something actually the Mitch and Dimitri from the ACT said during one of their podcasts, where Goldberg is used to being at the top, and so he doesn't know how to not be at the top.
Let's go through some of the matches here. Obviously, the Gunther match. Gunther defeats Goldberg, okay? Last one before that, 2022. Universal title. Roman Reigns defeats Goldberg by referee's decision. That was at Elimination Chamber. Yeah, Roman Reigns, that guy that really needed help then.
Yes.
Wasn't given the world, okay? No holds barred, falls count anywhere. Goldberg beats Bobby Lashley. That was at Crown Jewel. That's a squash, basically. It was 11-25. It was actually one of the longest ones ever. Lashley got a championship match over Goldberg on that. Before that, at SummerSlam. Drew McIntyre in 2021, when Drew was at his peak as champion. Royal Rumble 21, gets over on Goldberg. Fine. Braun Strowman defeated Goldberg. Title change. That was at WrestleMania 36, WrestleMania Performance Center. Goldberg squashed The Fiend in 3 minutes. Goldberg squashed Dolph Ziggler in 1:50. The Undertaker, again, that young upstart, defeated Goldberg at arguably the worst match in both of their careers at the Super Showdown 2019.
That was the one where he speared the... Didn't he
post, like, and they both post? Just got wrecked, right?
Yeah.
Damn near killed Undertaker, let's be honest. Brock Lesnar defeats Goldberg. Again, Goldberg putting over the young upstart who had no heat before him at all. Goldberg squashes Kevin Owens for the championship in 22 seconds.
Yep.
This goes on and on and on. There is nobody here. Goldberg defeats Matt Hardy in 2004, okay? Like, what are we talking about? Where is this guy giving back anything to help anybody? Goldberg defeats Kane. Goldberg defeats Kane. Goldberg defeats Triple H. Just goes on and on and on. All top guys already established. This guy never lost to anybody that needed it.
No.
So for Goldberg to complain, there was a time, Joe, when I was in Saskatchewan, that one of his in-laws, I think it was a brother-in-law or something, reached out to me and was saying, hey, next time Bill comes up, we should see if we can get you guys together. I was like, cool, that'd be great. But that was over 10 years ago now. And honestly, if I had the opportunity to meet Bill Goldberg tomorrow, and trust me, he ain't dying to get on this show.
No.
I don't think we're going to get him, and I don't think this is going to garner any attention outside of people listening to it. And that's not why I'm doing it. But what I'm saying is what I've said all along. Goldberg has been blessed beyond belief to have had the career he has had. He hasn't done anything spectacular except for a year and a half. And that was almost 30 years ago.
Yes.
Tell me how you are relevant in 2025 to this new crowd. We talked about it last week with Meltzer, and I've talked about it a few times now. We're the old guys. We're the guys that have been watching wrestling since the 90s, the 80s, in some cases the 70s, if you're as old as Joe. This doesn't matter to the modern day fan. To get as much profile as he got on that show And to look as good as he did against Gunther, the guy who undoubtedly worked his tail off in that match. Go back and watch it. Bill Goldberg, you're a spoiled, pissy pants crybaby. Mike McGuire's opinion. This is the most negative I've ever gotten on anything. And dude, like, come on. What are we talking about?
See, and that's the thing, because I want to balance it out. I want to try to find the positive in this, but I'm having a hard time, mainly because I am not a fan of entitled people. And that's, like, to your point, that's how this came off. Again, it just really bugged me when I saw the comments. Like, you know, he said the right things about Gunther. I'll give you that, right? But for him to say again, you know, Undertaker didn't get this, Cena's not getting this. It's like, dude, you're not either of those guys. And
you're not John Cena. You're not The Undertaker. You're not Hulk Hogan. You know what, dude? I'm going to go ahead and say it. You're not Gunther.
Like, here, let's use Hogan also as an example. Because let's be real. Hogan has had some, let's say, PR issues over the last little while. You still can't compare, though, Goldberg's contributions to what Hogan has done. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
okay, let's go down the list. Hogan, Flair, Luger, Sting,
yeah. HBK, Triple H,
Brett.
Actually, here, I'll give you a perfect example. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Last match was WrestleMania 19. He's admitted that in podcasts, but at the time, nobody knew, other than the one sort of goodbye gesture that he did. And you don't hear him complaining about, oh, well, Taker didn't get that and Cena didn't get that. He rode off into the sunset, as he likes to say, and he went out with grace and he went out with class. So if you compare how Stone Cold went out to very little fanfare versus how Goldberg went out on national TV, got a chance to, you know, address the live audience and all that fun stuff. Come on.
Gets all his buddies out and he's complaining, oh, we didn't have enough time to get everybody together in the ring. Dude, have a party. You got enough money. You got a house. You got a garage full of cars.
Yep.
You know, and maybe he does great things we don't hear about. You know, I mean, he'll sure tell you anytime he says hello to any kid anywhere. But have I heard about the Goldberg Children's Hospital Foundation? Have I heard about the Goldberg Center for Senior Care? Have I heard about the Goldberg Physical Rehabilitation for people who've suffered debilitating, you know, and again, maybe he does that stuff anonymously. I'm not going to judge him as a person based on that. But dude, if your biggest thing is I do it to put smiles on kids' faces, good. Go with that. Because there were at least 10,000 kids in that building who had no idea who you were. I'm getting off there because you know what? This is a positive show. Oh, wait, Goldberg defeated Jonathan Coachman, for God's sake. Goldberg couldn't even put over Coach.
Oh, Lord.
I'm just going through this record now. It's like some of the dumbest things.
Maybe you should stop reading it.
Oh, it's just, yeah. Celebrate wrestling. We'll go back to that next week.
in the 5 years that I've been podcasting with Mike, this is the most negative I have ever seen him.
And we went through the Vince thing.
I know. We watched a lot of Raw.
Like all these matches, Ric Flair, Triple H, Randy Orton. Goldberg defeated Steven Richards. Good for you. What a win. Defeated Rosie. Defeated Lance Storm. Defeated The Rock.
Did you at least get that out of your system, Mike? You feeling better?
I think so. I think so. And you know what? If you're a fan of Goldberg, be a fan of Goldberg. But for this guy to get the send-off of a lifetime for what he's really accomplished and to whine and complain about it, that is a slap to every fan's face, in my opinion, whether you're a diehard fan or not. Any wrestler can think whatever they want about whatever they got. That's fine. But 3 days after the fact that you get this huge send-off and everybody's feeling great about it, for you to say, but I didn't get what I wanted. Your send-off isn't always about you. And that is the most important thing. Going back to the not giving back to the business, that was his moment to walk out gracefully, seeming grateful for the opportunities and the money he has gotten through the years. And instead, he still chose to whine. I'm done. Done.
Well, and just to put a cherry on that, again, I can't disagree. Respect to his career, respect to what he's done, but the comments that he made, I think were uncalled for, and I disagree with them.
But he's trying to get a payout from AEW. That's all it is.
Oh Lord,
just wait, just wait. All right, you know what, friends? It's been a fun show otherwise. My thanks to Devin Axman again for giving us his thoughts on All In. My thanks to Dave Meltzer. And most importantly, my thanks to Joe Aguinaldo for putting up with me ranting for 20 minutes.
Yay!
Bill Goldberg. That does it for us this week. We're back next time. Until then, as always, thanks for listening. Let me do what I do. Play safe, drive safe. Be seeing ya. Except for you, Bill Goldberg.
He prefers to just be called Goldberg.
So, tell him to say it to my face. Say it to my face, Bill Goldberg.
McGuire on Wrestling. Online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.